Hey everyone, welcome to Horror Talk Live episode 7. Happy Friday. I hope you all had a great week, and if you didn't, I hope your weekend is going to be a fantastic weekend. Um, 11 more days to Halloween, Brennan, that's right. We're on a slight delay, so if you do comment, I will get back to you or I'll call you out. Um, it's about a 10-15 second delay. Troy's wearing my Halloween 3 mask. He's giving away what movie we're going to talk about tonight. Actually, he just watched it to join me for the stream. So we'll get his thoughts on it as we go through this. Yes, that's right. Tonight on episode 7 of Horror Talk Live, we were going to be discussing what some people consider the bastard stepchild of the Halloween franchise, the one without Michael Myers. And I've had my own sordid history with this one, and we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, we're going to talk about Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. And before we get into it, though, a little bit of housekeeping. Now my son has his screen mask on, sitting next to me. Couple things. I don't know if anybody saw it, but me and Dale_A from the Bat and Spider podcast, I highly recommend you guys go over and check them out. At Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Me and Dale went out to Ramsmere, Liberty, and Snow Camp, North Carolina to check out some locations for Children of the Corn 2, The Final Sacrifice. If you've never seen that movie, it is streaming on HBO Max right now. You could go check that out. I actually have a bunch of the Children of the Corn films. They had 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. So yeah, you can check them out. It was really cool to go out there and check out the shooting locations for the movie. We had a blast, and you can check that video out. Just scroll on down, and you might notice that I changed the name of my channel to Out of the Darkness Productions. That's what it's going to be going from here on forward. That was always the plan, and I'll give a shameless plug to our TeePublic page. Go over to TeePublic, check out our page. We got a bunch of designs up there. We're going to be uploading our Christmas designs soon. We got a ton of those. Got some Thanksgiving ones up, and yeah, we're really proud of some of the designs we've come up with. And go over and check them out. Troy's come up with a bunch. A lot of the gaming ones he's come up with. He's going to make us some gaming ones for Christmas. But now to get into horror news, we're going to talk about some 4K release news. Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, it's been a while. I've been planning on that for a while. It was just time, especially with rolling out the t-shirts, and I branded even the top of the channel says Out of Darkness Productions. It was time to do it. So I figured tonight we'll do it on this episode of Horror Talk Live. I got some 4K release news, some physical media release news for us people that still love physical media releases, and I love them myself. I got a whole list of them here that we're going to go through, and one theatrical horror film that's coming out in November that I'm quite excited about. But the first one up is Cujo is coming to 4K on October 24th, thanks to the great people over at Kino Lorber. Yes, October 24th, which is coming up in just a few days, is dropping on Kino Lorber on 4K for the first time for Cujo. We also got Red Dragon, kind of a remake to Manhunter, because it's pretty much the same movie, only updated and different actors. That is getting a 4K release by Kino Lorber as well on October 24th. Also on October 24th, the 1998 Roland Emmerich Godzilla is coming out on 4K. For all you folks that are interested in that, I have it on Blu-ray. I don't know if I'll upgrade it. I like that movie to a point, but I don't know if it's worth the upgrade. Maybe I will if it goes on sale at some point. In November 3rd, we got the Hellraiser box set on 4K with the movies 1 through 4, and that's from Arrow Video, and that's coming out November 3rd. You can check that out. I think the price is over $100 on Amazon right now, but you can check that out at your leisure. We got the Nun 2 from Warner Brothers dropping on 4K and Blu-ray on November 14th. I saw it in the theaters. It's actually an improvement over the first movie. It's definitely worth a watch. If you saw the first movie, I think it's definitely better than the first movie. I don't know where near a perfect film, but still pretty decent little horror film. November 28th, a big one, The Monster Squad's coming to 4K for the first time via the fine folks at Kino Lorber. And then in December, we got The Dead Zone starring the great Christopher Walken on December 19th coming to 4K from Scream Factory. And Exorcist Believer is slated for a December 31st 4K release from Universal. And yeah, that's all I got for physical media releases coming up. I know there's others, but those were the ones that caught my eye at the moment. Horror wise, anyway, there's a lot of other big ones coming out. They just announced Titanic's coming out in December on 4K. I know that's a big one. The Abyss is coming out in 4K. They still haven't released a date for True Lies, though. And that disturbs me greatly because I want that 4K, goddammit, James Cameron. Give it to me. The big horror release title coming up in November, it's a long time coming. I love the trailer. I've been looking forward to this film forever. And that film is Thanksgiving. Drops on November 17th from Eli Roth, coming via Sony Pictures. Famously, this was a fake trailer with Grindhouse back in 2007. That's right, Brandon. We need some True Lies in our lives. And I loved the trailer then when I saw Grindhouse in the theaters. I'm like, that would make a great horror film. And finally, all these years later, we're finally getting the theatrical film. And I'm very excited about it. The trailer looked pretty badass. So I'm really looking forward to Thanksgiving, which drops again on November 17th, right before Turkey Day. So we're going to have another Thanksgiving horror film in our staple besides Blood Rage. And I don't even know if there's any other ones. There probably is, but Blood Rage is always the other one that's going to come to mind. Speaking of Blood Rage, for all you folks out there that have ever seen it, it was streaming on Tubi. I don't know if it still is. But for Horror Talk Live Episode 8, I'm going to announce this now. I don't know when we're going to do it. Might have a special guest for that one. We'll see. But I want to talk about Blood Rage in November on Horror Talk Live Episode 8. So if you've never seen Blood Rage, it was streaming on Tubi. I think it still is. I know it's available on Blu-ray. But yeah, check that out. It's a Thanksgiving horror film. And I got to see it at the Mahoney Drive-In last Labor Day weekend for their Camp Blood. That's right, Brandon. It's not cranberry sauce. I'm looking forward to that one. I like Blood Rage. It's a fun movie, fun slasher film, very gory, lots of TNA, and some classic one-liners, as Brandon just alluded to, with That's Not Cranberry Sauce. But you got to see the movie to get the line. But, okay, we're going to get into Halloween 3, and my son's going to chime in with some of his thoughts. He just watched it for the first time before we started this broadcast, about 20 minutes before we started. The movie ended, and but first of all, I want to give a little context of my relationship with this film. And I'm sure like many my age who saw it young probably felt the same way. But it's finally starting to get some love, which I'm happy about. But I remember back when I was younger, I'm going to act like I'm ancient here, but I'm not that old. There was no internet. So if you didn't see the movie at the video store, then you didn't know it was out. Like the only horror magazine was Fangoria, really. And this small town I grew up, you couldn't get it, really. It wasn't, and I couldn't subscribe to it. I was too young. I didn't have my own money. My parents weren't going to certainly not pay for it. But I remember I'd sleep over with my grandparents a lot, and they got the Sunday paper. So in September and October in Pennsylvania, there was a station out of New York called WPIX 11 out of New York. And through September and October at 8 o'clock at night during the week, they would show a horror movie each night. Usually it was like Friday the 13th, Halloween 1 or 2. It was Creepshow 2, Phantasm 2, Tales from the Dark Side. No, Tales from the Dark Side wasn't out yet. Maybe it was. And then a couple other films, but those were the ones I remember a lot. And I remember looking through the TV guide to plan my week out of what I was going to watch, because we spent a lot of evenings at my grandparents' house because my dad worked swing shift. So when he was on second shift for 2 weeks, we would go up there for dinner and hang out until, about 8, 9 o'clock at night, or even sometimes up to 10 o'clock. And I remember I saw Halloween 3, and I'm like, holy shit, there's another Halloween. I didn't know there was a Halloween 3. Didn't know it existed. So I marked it on my calendar. That night, my grandfather was watching baseball playoffs downstairs. I went up to his bedroom. He had a TV in his bedroom. And I got my snacks, got a drink, and I sat there. The movie starts. 10, 15 minutes into the movie, there's no Michael Myers. There's no Dr. Loomis. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And the movie keeps going. And there's no Michael Myers, no Dr. Loomis. There's no Jamie Lee Curtis, nothing. What the hell's going on? I made it about halfway, 30 minutes into the movie, and I shut it off. And I'm like, that sucked. That sucked. Fast forward some time, I rented it from the video store again and given it a shot. Still didn't like it, but made it all the way through. I had just graduated high school. It was the late 90s. and my parents were going out with some friends, and they knew I loved horror movies. I wasn't going out that night, so they rented me some horror movies, and Halloween 3 was one of them. Yeah, I was, I was pissed, Brandon. I was pissed. Um, I know, Rich, you don't like Halloween 3. I know, my friend. I know. This pains you that I'm talking about it tonight. I know this movie's not for everybody. But anyway, I remember my parents' friends rented a few movies for me, and one of them was Halloween 3. So, adult me, just barely an adult, watched it again, and I started liking it. And ever since then, I got the DVD. I liked it even more. And now I can honestly say I love this film up front. But we're going to talk about it. But yeah, it took me a long time to get here. I know this movie's not for everybody. Uncle Richie said hi.
Hello.
Speaking to the microphone.
I am.
So it took me a little bit to get here, but I really appreciate this movie, and we're going to get into why and some of the things about this movie. Now, like I said, this is Troy's first time watching the movie. We will get his rating at the end. I will get his thoughts as we go through it. Troy has just started his horror movie journey. We've blown through all the Scream movies, correct, buddy?
Yes.
Which one was your favorite?
I like the fifth or third one.
Okay, I thought it was the first one, but I guess fifth or third one. And really, in the Scream franchise, a pretty consistent franchise. I hope we didn't pause there. Sorry if we did. We're back up. And we just watched It last Sunday, and he really liked it. He wants to watch It Chapter 2, the new It. Yes, this is Troy's first Halloween movie. And much to his chagrin, it was the one without Michael Myers, because he really wants to watch one with Michael Myers in it. I told him we will get there. But, so he just watched It last Sunday, and then we watched Halloween 3 tonight. So Troy's just beginning his horror journey. And he saw Predator 2 back in the summertime. So we are slowly making our way in. I told him he can watch The Fog, which I'm excited about watching with him. We're going to watch It Chapter 2. And we're going to make our way through some films. Okay, let's get into Halloween 3. That's what we're all here for, to talk about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Maybe not Rich. Rich is sitting at home. Poor kid. Rich, Uncle Rich is the poor kid. No, Rich, he made it through the movie. Unlike you, he's not scarred from it. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch came out October 22nd of 1982. It's rated R. It's an hour and 38 minutes long. Had a budget of $2.5 million, and upon release, it only made 14.4. Although enough to make a profit, it wasn't the success that obviously Part 1 or Part 2 was. That's why in 88 they brought Michael Myers back to the big screen, and he's been present ever since throughout the franchise. Now, to direct this film, Carpenter brought in, because Carpenter, the idea was, a little context, Carpenter wrote and directed with Deborah Hill, co-wrote and then he produced and directed the first Halloween movie. Tommy Lee Wallace was the production designer in that film and editor, and he even played Michael Myers uncreditedly in a couple scenes. Okay, and Tommy Lee Wallace was friends with John Carpenter before that. He had worked on Assault on Precinct 13 a little bit. Him and John met and were good friends in real life. He worked on The Fog. He was actually one of the ghosts, plus he edited The Fog. So him and John were very close. When Halloween 2 rolled around, which John Carpenter did not want to do, but was kind of forced to because of legal means, he offered it, him and Deborah Hill offered it to Tommy Lee Wallace, and Tommy Lee Wallace read the script and turned it down. He said it was almost like the same first movie all over. Now, I like Halloween 2, but he was not enamored with the script, so he said no, and they brought in Rick Rosenthal. Well, when 3 came around, Carpenter and Hill did not want to do another Michael Myers movie. So their idea was that each year they can make a movie that's centered around the holiday of Halloween, call it Halloween, but it could go off in any direction it wanted to. So basically an original Halloween movie every year, which I think is a pretty badass idea. Unfortunately, if you've ever seen the trailers for this film, they don't really allude to that Michael Myers isn't in the movie. So I can see why audiences were a little pissed back in the day, and this movie wasn't so unwell received. Yeah, I respect Tommy Lee Wallace for waiting for something better, and this was his opportunity. Now, Tommy Lee Wallace was not the first director offered the job. Joe Dante was actually originally tapped to direct Halloween 3. The development process went on a little bit longer than Joe Dante was able to wait for, because he went off to do Twilight Zone, the movie, and they brought in Nigel Neal, who's a famous science fiction British horror writer, to come in and write the script. And he was writing, at the time, he was writing Creature from the Black Lagoon movie for John Landis, which never got made, obviously. But there was a time that John Landis was going to direct Creature from the Black Lagoon movie, and he was writing the script. Well, he came over to write this script. Tommy Lee Wallace signed on. They liked the script. Tommy Lee Wallace describes Halloween 3 as 60% of what that script was from Nigel Neal. John Carpenter did a pass on it, and then Tommy Lee Wallace did a pass on it. So 3 people actually took a crack at the script, and this is the movie we got. Now, Tom Atkins came in to play Dr. Daniel Chalice, who is great. He's awesome here. And he'd already worked with Carpenter on The Fog, Escape from New York. Nick Castle did Creepshow, Halloween 3, obviously, Night of the Creeps, Lethal Weapon in 87. He's been doing a lot. He's been in a ton of films. I love Tom Atkins, and he's great here. And that was the other difference with this film. These are all older characters. There's no teenagers. There's little kids going trick-or-treating, but this film centers around, Stacey Nelkin's younger, early 20s, but everybody in this movie is an older person. It's not teenagers anymore, which I kind of like. It's kind of different, goes in a different direction. It's not just the same slasher formula, which sets this movie apart. Speaking of Stacey Nelkin came in to play Ellie Grimbridge. Dan O'Hurley plays Connell Cochran, the owner and operator of Silver Shamrock Masks. And obviously he played the old man in RoboCop, but he's been acting since 1947, so he had a long, illustrious career, and I love him in this movie. And Garn Stevens plays Marge, the one who gets killed by the misfire in her room. And the only reason I bring her up was her and Tom Atkins were actually married at the time when they filmed this movie. Now, at the beginning of this film, we see this older gentleman running down the road with a mask in his hand being chased by somebody in a car. And I remember as a kid, again, going, what the hell is going on here? Where's Michael Myers? And we have these guys chase him through this, dump or, garbage dump. And he kills one of them, or so we think. And he makes it to this gas station. He gets taken to the hospital where we're introduced to Dr. Daniel Chalice, which Tom Atkins is great here. And I love his character. He's not a good father. He drinks too much. But he's still badass. And only Tom Atkins can make a character like that so likable and something you root for, considering, really he's not that great of a dad, and he blows his kids off any chance he gets, and he's always drinking the Miller High Life, and there's so many memes around it. It's glorious. And somebody sneaks in, guy dressed in a business suit, looks like somebody that's a stockbroker, sneaks into his room at the hospital and snaps his nose and crushes his face. And then goes out to the car and proceeds to blow himself up, which is pretty cool scene. And what do you think about the opening scene?
It was pretty cool how that one guy got killed in the hospital, and then he went out to his car and put
gasoline all over himself. Troy Redway said, "How's that guy so strong? How can he do that?" Yes, it was this. Yeah, when he the slowest moving car killed ever. That car takes forever to kill that guy. Which we find out later is robots. I don't think I'm giving too much away here. Troy was asking me, he's like, "What? Why are these guys so strong?" Like the scene where he rips the guy's head off. Troy's like, "How can they do that?" He goes, something's up with them. I'm like, "Yeah, something's up with them." And then at the end, when they reveal that they're robots, he was like, "Oh, that makes sense." He was like, "Is Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie? Is this like Terminator?" I'm like, "No, it's not the Terminator." I said, "This actually predates Terminator, and Schwarzenegger's not in it." He goes, "Well, he should have been because he looks like a robot." But after that, we're introduced to Ellie. She comes in because we find out it's her father that got killed by this mysterious man who blew himself up in the parking lot. And right away, Daniel Chalice is smitten with her. Dr. Chalice is smitten with her. He likes her. But he helps her. She wants to know what happened to her father. And they trace it back to Silver Shamrock Masks in Santa Mira, California. So Dr. Chalice drops everything, spending time with his kids and his duties at the hospital, and takes off for Santa Mira, California to check out the Silver Shamrock mask making factory. This is where we see this little town where people are looking at them through windows. I grew up in a small town. Rich can verify this. We grew up in the same town. People do that in small towns. Especially my grandfather was like the sergeant of arms of our block. But and they end up staying, and they snoop around a little bit to try to find out what happened to Ellie's father. And right away you can tell something's a little bit off. even with Colonel Cochran, he seems nice and warm and inviting, but there's something just a little off about this whole situation. There's cameras everywhere. There's a voice at night telling people to stay inside at like 8 o'clock for their curfew, which is Jamie Lee Curtis, by the way. Jamie Lee Curtis did that voiceover for the operator. And yes, Rich, you know that. The operator on the phone and talks to Tom Atkins' character, and she's the voice of the curfew. That's Jamie Lee Curtis. She also did voiceover work for John Carpenter's Escape from New York. She was always around and did some little things for them back then. Tommy Lee Wallace did the voiceover for the commercial in this movie, which we'll get into later. And we get the misfire with Marge. She's fooling around with the emblem of the mask in her bed, and it hits her right in the face and blows her face apart. Troy was pretty. He thought that was pretty cool, didn't you? The look on her face. But he was wondering, like, why are the bugs coming out of her face? And boy, did he was unprepared what was about to happen then. Later on with little Buddy with the test, he was not prepared for that. But we'll get into that. Up. Danny said hi.
Hello.
He said hi. I don't know if you can hear him. He's not sitting very close to his microphone. Can you hear Troy all right out there?
You can hear me just fine.
Oh, by the way, I'm drinking. There's a local brewery about 20 minutes away from here called Aviator. I'm drinking their pumpkin beer. I like this stuff. 'Tis the season, after all. After Marge has the misfire, where Daniel Chalice and Ellie were... Daniel Chalice got what he wanted, right? Because he just was looking for a piece of ass, right? And that's why he got involved in all this, although he didn't expect where his journey was going to take him. But they end up taking a tour of the factory with this kind of ugly American couple with a little Buddy who's about to meet his fate. And is Troy a little low or am I a little low? Thanks, Rich. When you come down in November, you can get some of this stuff. Danny said you were a little low, but some other people are saying you're all right. You might be all right. I don't know.
I think it's you.
Up. Does everybody hear me okay? Just let me know. Oh, Troy, okay. No, they're saying you, buddy.
Uh-huh.
And Ellie sees her father's car parked in one of the garages when they're leaving, but the guys in suits will not let her get near it. And Dr. Chalice and Ellie leave, but little Buddy and his family get to go in and check out some new promotional materials. And Colin Cochran gives Buddy a mask. Hi, Pop Fenton, how you doing? And we see the commercial, and Troy was not expecting what happened to little Buddy. Am I right, Troy?
Huh?
When his
Yeah.
head,
Mm-hmm.
little Buddy's head disintegrates in a pile of mush, and all these bugs and snakes come out. He goes, "Why is there so many bugs and snakes?" I'm like, "Because it's Halloween 3, baby. That's what it is." It doesn't have to make sense, but it's pretty disgusting. You were disgusted by that, weren't you?
I mean, yeah.
Which is a pretty good scene. I actually like that a lot. What's that, Kurt? Okay. Little Buddy and his family are dead. And we get on pretty much we're going into the end of our story, the end of our movie, with Ellie gets taken. Yeah, it is nightmare fuel, Brandon. Yeah, Troy was sitting there going, what is all the bugs coming from? Where'd that snake come from? And I'm like, it's magic. It's the darkest magic.
There's like 4 snakes.
I know. I didn't understand it when I was young either. I probably still don't quite understand it, but it's still pretty cool and a little different, a little weird. So I dig it. But it's different. You got to give it props for originality. Am I right?
I'm fine with the snakes, just not the crickets and stuff.
The crickets and stuff. He was stuck on the crickets. He's like, why are there so many crickets? I'm like, that's the bugs they had available to them. I don't know. They had crickets and they let them loose on the soundstage. And this is where we get the part where Ellie gets taken by the guys in suits, and Dr. Chalice is running around Santa Mira trying to find Ellie and get back to the factory, which he does. He gets taken hostage, And this is when we get Conal Cochran's master plan, why he's doing all this. Because it doesn't make any sense why he would kill kids at this point. Oh, well, Dr. Chalice was already caught. He saw Buddy and his family get killed because Conal Cochran showed him. And I love Daniel Hurley's performance here when they take Dr. Chalice to that room by himself because they're going to put a mask on and let him watch the giveaway and die with millions of children, presumably, if his plan goes through. And Daniel Hurley's been great through the whole movie, but this scene really sells his character because he turns it on. Like, he's kind of still jovial and kind of happy about what he's doing. And then when Dr. Chalice asks him, why are you doing this? And he goes, do I need a reason for it? He goes, I like playing jokes, and this is the best ever, a joke on the children. And he's smiling, and then he changes just like that. No, I'm not done with that yet. Thanks, though, buddy. I'm just going to read what he says. He goes, I do love a good joke, and this is the best ever, a joke on the children. And he goes, you don't really know much about Halloween, do you? You don't know anything further than the strange custom of dressing your kids up and sending them out begging for candy. And he goes on about the old ways back in Ireland, about how they used to have these festivals, and there would be the layer between the living and the dead was thin, which they would bring back in Halloween 6, that little bit of lore. And he talks about this festival of Samhain, or we would say it's Samhain, and the last great one took place 3,000 years ago, and the hills ran red with blood of animals and children. And then he just goes on. He goes, "We in the end, we don't decide these things. You know, the planets do, and they're in alignment, and it's time again." So really, yes, he's an evil businessman, but he's doing it because he believes in these old traditions that they did back in Ireland, and he wants to do it yet again, and it's time again to have a great sacrifice. And he's just doing it through the latest technology, and he's using marketing and a business to facilitate this ritual. He's just going at it a different way to fulfill this witchcraft that they used to do back in his old country. And but I love his performance in that scene where he goes from kind of like happy about everything, and then he just gets real serious and turns it on. And that just, Daniel Hurley was a great actor, God rest his soul, and he gives a great performance here, and you can tell he's having a blast with this role. Because I love when they show him Halloween morning. It's a brief moment, and it's really nothing, but if you watch it, he walks out into the loading dock of the factory. The sun's coming up, it's morning, and he's dressed in his suit, and he has a skip to his step. And you can just tell he's so happy it's Halloween morning, and tonight's the night he gets to pull off the greatest trick or sacrifice that anybody in his position has ever got to do. And just the joy in his face, you gotta just love it, even though he's an evil son of a bitch. I love his performance, and he really does give it all. Well, anyway, Dr. Chalice escapes his bonds, throws the mask over the camera, which took 40 takes to get that shot. Tommy Lee Wallace has said that he thought it would take a shorter amount of time, but because Tom Atkins did it just goofing around, he did it on one shot, but it took him like over 40 takes to get that shot of him throwing a mask on the camera. He gets Ellie. They destroy Conal Cochran's plant. Well, he hopes his whole facility. Conal Cochran dies, and they escape, but Ellie's been switched out for a robot, which Troy wasn't expecting. And then we get that great final shot, which is right out of Invasion of the Body Snatchers of the 50s, with Tom Atkins trying to get the guy at the TV station, or the cable station, to pull the commercial. He's successful with 2, and then Tom Atkins is screaming, "Stop, stop it, stop it." And he looks right into the camera on the last one. And that's the end of the film. So you don't know if you got the commercial stopped or if everybody died. Troy was optimistic. He said, I think the commercial stopped, right? He thought he wanted to be an optimist and say they definitely stopped the commercial. I don't know if they did. I like the darker think of darker ending. It might have went through. But I love that they leave it ambiguous. Yes, Brandon, he actually did throw it over the camera. There was no wire. He actually did. It took over 40 shots, but he did get it. And that is Halloween 3 Season of Witch. Rich, you should give it a rewatch, buddy. Give it a rewatch, see how you feel. Now, I'm going to ask Troy, before I get into some trivia, what are your overall thoughts? You don't have to give a rating yet. We'll do that at the end. But what do you think about the film overall?
It's pretty good.
What did you like the most about it?
Probably about the part
Get a little closer.
where he finds out that they're all robots when he punches into the one guy and
Oh, he
finds
pulls the
wi-
wires
yeah.
out? Yeah, Troy's like, oh, they are robots. Oh, yes, full moon on the 28th. God. Oh, Rich, we're going to have a full moon while I'm in Pennsylvania. We'll be high off the moon that night. What other parts did you like? What did you think about the ending, the ambiguous ending? You think they stopped the commercial
Yeah.
and all the kids were safe?
Yes.
Optimist. I'm glad he's an optimist. I'm not so optimistic. I don't know if he actually got it stopped, but they leave it up to interpretation, so you could go at it either. What if it's going to be a full moon, Rich? It's probably not a good thing, but you never know. We could have some fun with it. Yeah, that's right, Kurt. It's wedding day. My sister and fiance Kurt are getting married next Saturday, and it's gonna be a full moon on that day. I don't know, Kurt. That's bad news, man. That's bad juju. You're right, Brandon. It's definitely a Carpenter ending, for sure. It's not much different than like The Thing. You know what I mean? When Childs and McCready are just sitting there in the snow at the end, and it just goes to black and the credits roll. It's left to your imagination what you think happened or who was the thing. In this movie, it's the same thing. You could think of, did he stop it? Did he not? Did a bunch of people die? We don't know. And I like ambiguous endings. I love when films have enough balls to stick with it, because the general consensus or more popular ending would have been to have a happy ending. And yep, you're right, Print. Don't wear a Halloween mask on the 28th, people, and don't watch a Silver Shamrock commercial, because bad things may happen. But I like the ambiguous endings, and this is definitely this is a great one. I love just Tom Atkins screaming into the camera, "Stop it," and that's it. It's perfect. Troy's going to put the Silver Shamrock mask back on. And then obviously the film is helped tremendously by the score by Carpenter and Alan Howarth. And I love the score. And now Carpenter's new album out, Anthology 2, I bought it, and there's a couple tracks on there from Halloween 3, and they sound amazing being updated with him and his son and his stepson, or his godson. Don Post Studios made all the masks for the film, and they actually sold all 3 masks back then when this film was released in stores. Hopefully his head doesn't melt. So yeah, they were actually in retail stores to buy, and you can get them now because Trick or Treat Studios makes them. That's how I got that one, and they have the other 2 that you can get. And they also have plastic ones. Oh yes, Brandon. The opening credits set the mood of the whole movie. The music and that digital punking coming up on the computer screen. And this movie is actually very beautifully shot. And the reason that is because Dean Cundy, who shot John Carpenter's Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, The Thing with Carpenter, he shot Halloween 2. He shot this movie with Tommy Lee Wallace. So Dean Cundy, who's one of the great cinematographers of all time, shot the movie. That's why it looks so great. And they definitely steep itself in the season of Halloween. It feels like it's Halloween in this film. And especially with Colin Cochrane going into some of the history, the darker history of the pagan rituals. I always, especially when I got older and appreciated this movie, I really liked all that stuff, bringing in some of the old lore from, what Halloween started as. So I love all that stuff. The song that they used to create the jingle for Silver Shamrock was London Bridge is Falling Down, because it was in public domain and they didn't have to pay any money for it. So they used that and created the jingle off of that London Bridge is Falling Down. The gas station in the movie that we see a couple times when the old man gets there and then Dr. Chalice is the same gas station from The Fog. I already said Tommy Lee Wallace voiced all the commercials in the movie because he was cheap. He was the director. The factory that they used was a paper pulp factory that they created. They dressed up for the Silver Shamrock factory. I already said Joe Dante was originally going to direct the film, but he went off to do the Twilight Zone movie. And Nancy Keys, or Nancy Loomis, who was in John Carpenter's Assault on Precinct 13, She was in Halloween. She was in the Fog. She's in this movie as well. She plays Tom Atkins' ex-wife in the movie, which you can tell he's not thrilled with his ex-wife or likes his ex-wife. What to like about this film overall? Well, the cast. I think the cast is great. And again, I said this earlier. I think it's great that it's an older cast. It's not teenagers. I mean, Stacey Nelkin's the youngest person here in the cast, early 20s. But everybody's feels like a real person. You know, they've been around a while. They've seen some shit. And I like that about the cast. It's not just... And I love teenagers getting slashed up. Don't get me wrong. But they went at it from a different direction. This is what he's going to be for Halloween, folks. He's going to be Ghostface. He's been wearing it outside at night, going around scaring people to come to look at our decorations outside. Are any of you guys dressing up for Halloween? Let me know in the comments what your costume is, if you have one. I'm going to be, for trick-or-treat night, which is Halloween night here, I have a scarecrow costume. Messed up looking scarecrow. I'm going to stand in my cornfield out front. Because we usually get about 400 or 500 people stop by on Halloween night, so it'll be a busy night on that Tuesday night. I think the effects hold up really well, especially the makeup effects. Some of the animated effects don't look that great. They don't hold up that well, but overall, they did a nice job with the effects, and the robot effects look cool. I like all that stuff, and they did a good job with that. A fool getting married. Kurt. It was time. It'll all go well. It'll all go well, my friend. Well, that was the thing, Rich. Even people back then said, and even Tommy Lee Wallace said, maybe we should just call it Season of the Witch. And... maybe that's true. Maybe it would have did better if it didn't have the Halloween stigma attached to it. I don't know. Season of the Witch is a pretty badass title. I know George Romero used it for a movie back in the 70s. But it's a good title. But I think they wanted to do something new. Like I said, Carpenter and Hill wanted to do something new and fresh with the Halloween franchise and just veer it off into like an anthology series of films. And, you know, it didn't work. Unfortunately, I mean, it did make a little bit of money. It wasn't the bomb people thought it was. It did eke out some profit. It just wasn't as successful as the first two films. That's why, like I said, Carpenter and Hill sold all their rights to the franchise off the Mustafa Akkad, and in '88 they came out with Halloween for the Return of Michael Myers, and again, Michael Myers has been with us ever since, and we're going to get more Michael Myers because Miramax just bought the film and TV rights, so we will be getting some more Michael Myers movies at some point. He's not going anywhere. I actually would love to see a sequel to this movie. I think there's a way to do it that would be pretty cool. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but I think that would be pretty neat if they did it. But that's just me being a fanboy and want to see a sequel. But, you know, I think there's a way to do it years later, like a descendant of Conal Cochran that, you know, wants to do a sacrifice again. I think that would be pretty cool, and it'd be a unique movie, something we haven't seen in a while. I don't think it'll ever happen, but that's my dream as a horror fan, that we would get a sequel to Halloween 3, but I don't, again, not going to happen. And I know Dante's still alive. He could do it. They can even do it for a streaming service. It doesn't even have to go theatrical, although I'd rather it go theatrical, but yeah, Joe Dante's still alive. Yep, Joe Dante's still with us. He directs. He hasn't directed a movie in a little bit, but he still directs some TV here and there. Overall, I'm going to ask Troy what his rating is out of 10. Troy, what is your rating out of 10 on this one?
7.5.
7.5. What didn't you like about the movie? Just some negatives. It could be anything. It's all right.
The effects.
You mean like the light, the stuff shooting out of... Yeah. He didn't like those effects. Like when Marge has the misfire, he didn't like that. He said it looks fake. I'm like, Troy, this was back in '82. But overall, a 7.5 out of 10 for his first time watching it. I will take it. That's a pretty good score. I am a little higher than him. I'm gonna go a 9.5 out of 10 because I love this movie that much. It's a movie, like I said, it grew on me over time, and I watch it every Halloween. This is one of those films I have to get in every October. And I just watched it a week ago, and me and Troy just watched it earlier because I wanted him to see it before we did this. Um, and out of all the Halloween movies, I always want to get in every October. I want to get in 1, 2, and 3. Those are the three I have to get in before October 31st. Oh, I mean Josh Brolin in Planet Terror. Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Brolin. He reminds you of Dr. Chalice. Kind of, Brolin reminds you of Dr. Chalice. I haven't seen Planet Terror in a while. I gotta watch that again. I have it on Blu-ray. I just haven't watched it in a while. Um, yeah, 9.5 out of 10 for Halloween 3 from me. I'm sure I'll get a text from Rich later. You're gotta be out of your mind. What would you guys rate this one out of 10? Brandon, I know you just watched this on 4K. You said the 4K looks amazing. I don't have it on 4K. I have it on Blu-ray. Amazon was having a sale today, but they didn't have the Halloween 3 on sale. Those bastards. I wanted to get it, but they didn't have it. Um, uh, 9.5 out of 10, Brandon. It's a good score. Well, 82 in October of 82. I don't know what it was out in October of 82, really. Friday 13th. That one didn't come out in October. Friday 13th 2 or 3 came out in 82. I guess part 2 did. Let me check. I'm trying to think what year that came out. No, that came out in 81. Did 3 come out in 82? 3 came out in 82, but that came out 9 out of 10 print. That's a good solid score. Yeah, Friday 13th 3 came out in 82, but that came out earlier in the year. That didn't come out in October. That's the weird thing about Friday the 13th movies. They really didn't come out in October. They came out earlier, like in the summertime or springtime. And obviously, well, 82 is also the summer of E.T. But also John Carpenter's The Thing came out in 82. But that came out in the summertime. I don't know what came out in the fall that year. I can't think of any big movies, big horror movies. Because I think, let's see, I have a hunch that Creepshow came out in 82, but that came out in November. That didn't come out in October. That came out like 2 weeks after Halloween 3 came out. And Creepshow was a nice hit for Warner Brothers when that came out. I know the thing coming out. Yeah, the original Creepshow came out in '82, but it came out in November. I know the thing. They released the thing in the summertime. It's like, what were you just thinking? That's a freaking Halloween movie. That's not a summer movie. And then it unfortunately didn't do very well, and Carpenter got fired off of Firestarter because of it, unfortunately. But because of that, we got Christine, so we'll take it. All right, we didn't get John Carpenter Firestarter, but we got Christine, and Christine kicks ass. So we'll take that. But yeah, Halloween 3 again. I really like this film. It definitely is a great horror film to watch at this time of year. Yeah, Poltergeist. Poltergeist was 82, but that was a summer movie, I think. Yes, Poltergeist came out in 82, Rich. Obviously directed by Tobe Hooper. That came out in June. Poltergeist came out in June of 82. Oh, absolutely, Brandon. Absolutely. Yeah, but Troy gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. Um, Next month, again, I'm going to announce because there's more people watching now than there was earlier when I announced it. We're going to do Blood Rage for November. If you've never seen Blood Rage, if you have Tubi, it's free. If you don't have it, you can download it for free, and it's awesome. A matter of fact, just to throw this out there, another horror film that's coming out next week, I think on the 27th, on Tubi, is a movie called Festival of the Dead. It's going to drop on Tubi, and it's supposed to be like a companion piece to the Romero zombie films. So be on the lookout for that. The Sulka sisters out of Canada directed that, and they're big-time horror fans. I'm looking forward to it. They directed a kick-ass horror film, messed up one, called American Mary. If you've never seen it, check that one out. It's about body modification. But yeah, they have a zombie movie dropping on Tubi next Friday, I believe. So be on the lookout for that. It's called Festival of the Dead. I almost forgot about that one. Just came to my mind. But yeah, next month we are going to do Blood Rage. I'm thinking on November 10th. Probably it's going to be November 10th. I'll drop that date soon as I get some things sorted out. No, actually, it won't be November 10th. It might be the 17th. I might do it on the 17th. You got to watch Christine, Kurt, if you get a chance to check it out. It's awesome. It's streaming. It might be on HBO Max. It's streaming somewhere. I have that on 4K. It looks amazing on 4K. But yeah, maybe the 17th I'll do Blood Rage. I can't do it on the 10th. It's not a good Friday to do it. But yeah, that's going to be next Horror Talk Live. Blood Rage, if you've never seen it, it was streaming on Tubi. See if you can check it out. It's a very bloody slasher movie from the early 80s. It didn't get released till 87, but it was filmed in like 83. I got to see it at Camp Blood at the Moaning Drive-In last Labor Day, and I got to watch it on Tubi because I have reviewed it before. But it's a Thanksgiving horror, so we're going to do a Thanksgiving horror for November. So Blood Rage next month, folks. It's Friday night. I hope you have a great weekend. I know some of you are going to be watching Joe Bob. Joe Bob's coming on at 9, I believe. So you guys enjoy that. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for joining us. Troy, say goodbye.
Bye.
We appreciate you always hanging out with us, having some fun on a Friday night. And I hope you're having a nice cold beer or whatever your drink of choice is this evening. Enjoy Joe Bob. Enjoy some horror films this weekend. And we'll see you next time, all right? See you later. Bye.